I came home early and found my mother, fighting for her life in the ICU, while my brother and his wife stood there calmly as if nothing happened. That evening, my neighbor called, and what she told me made my blood boil. I made sure they both ended up in prison. Sup Reddit. Strap in and focus with me because what you are about to hear is going to mess with your head. Name's Arthur, 43 male. Let me tell you what happened. I headed to Phoenix on a Thursday morning thinking I'd be gone 10 days. Industry conference for insurance adjusters. Cut it short after day 6. Couldn't take another minute of watching some consultant explain blockchain applications for medical billing like it was going to change the world. Told my boss I had a family emergency. Wasn't lying, I just didn't know it yet. Drove home to Scottsdale around 3 in the afternoon. My mom's place. Well, technically my place too now since I'd been living there the past 2 years taking care of her. Mom's 74 with diabetes and early-stage Parkinson's. Nothing terrible but enough that she needed someone around to make sure she took her meds on time and didn't try moving furniture by herself. My brother Jared sure wasn't volunteering for any of that. The house looked normal from the street. Her car in the driveway. Everything was quiet. I unlocked the front door and immediately knew something was off. The mail was stacked up on the entry table. 3 days worth. Mom sorts mail every single day like it's part of her routine. Has done it since I was a kid. Seeing that pile sitting there untouched made my stomach drop. Then I spotted her reading glasses on the floor near the stairs. Mom doesn't drop things and leave them. I called out for her. No response. Checked the kitchen, her bedroom, the back patio. Nothing. House was empty. That's when I saw the envelope wedged under a grocery store flyer. Hospital letterhead, Scottsdale Medical Center. Dated Monday morning, 3 days ago. Ripped it open. Notification that Grace Kellerman had been admitted to Scottsdale Medical Center ICU Sunday night. Letter printed Monday morning. My mother had been in the ICU since Sunday night and nobody bothered to call me. I grabbed my keys and headed straight for the hospital. The drive took 15 minutes. I kept thinking about how I'd talked to Jared 4 days ago before I left. Asked him to check on Mom while I was gone. He'd said sure, no problem, he'd swing by every day. Now she'd been unconscious in a hospital bed since Sunday night, and I was just finding out. Found her in the ICU room. The nurse at the desk pointed me down the hall without asking for ID. I walked in and stopped cold. Mom was lying there hooked up to machines. Breathing tube, heart monitor, 2 IV lines running into her arms. Her face looked thinner than I remembered, like someone had sucked the life out of her. But what really made my blood pressure spike was seeing Jared and Celeste sitting in chairs next to the bed, both of them calm, no visible stress, no sign that this was their mother lying there half dead. Jared looked up when I walked in, gave me this surprised look. Arthur, what are you doing here? Thought you were in Phoenix until Sunday. I stared at him for 5 seconds before answering, watched him shift in his seat. Got a letter saying Mom's been in the ICU for 3 days? Want to explain why nobody called me? We didn't want to worry you during your conference. Everything's handled. Doctors have it covered. We figured we'd update you when you got back. Right, because that makes perfect sense. I walked over to Mom's bed, took her hand. That's when I saw the bruising on her wrist. Dark purple, almost black. Obviously it wasn't from a fall. That's from someone grabbing you. I turned to Jared. What happened? She fell down the stairs, lost her balance. We found her at the bottom and called 911 right away. Celeste nodded along. It was awful. We got here as fast as we could. I looked at the bruise on Mom's wrist again. Looked back at Jared and Celeste sitting there with faces so blank, they had to be practiced. When did this happen? Sunday evening, around 7. And you've been here since then? Jared shook his head. We came Sunday night for a few hours. Been checking in every day. You know how it is. Can't sit here all day and night. We have jobs, responsibilities. I pulled out my phone. Checked the hospital visitor log the nurse had shown me on the way in. Jared and Celeste had visited once. Sunday night from 7:15 to 8:30, 75 minutes total. That was it. Mom had been alone in the ICU for almost 3 full days, while her son and daughter-in-law lived their normal lives. Later, I'd find out Jared had listed himself as primary emergency contact when they brought her in. Told the hospital I was out of state and unreachable. That's why nobody called me. That's why the letter sat in the mailbox for 3 days. Something cold settled in my gut. I told Jared and Celeste they could leave. Said I'd take it from here. Said I needed some time alone with Mom. Jared started to argue, but I shut him down with a look. He exchanged a glance with Celeste. Then they both stood up and walked out. After they left, I sat next to Mom's bed and looked at her. The bruise on her wrist was fresh. 3 days old maximum. But there were other marks too. Faded yellow bruises on her upper arm. a scrape on her cheek that looked older than the fall. Signs that something had been wrong before Sunday. A nurse came in to check vitals. I asked her about the fall. She gave me this careful look. The injuries line up with a fall, but there were some things that raised questions. Like what? The bruising on her wrist. The doctor noted it in the chart. It's possible she grabbed onto something during the fall, but the way it looks is unusual. I thanked her and sat back down. I stayed at the hospital until visiting hours ended. Sat with Mom. Talked to her even though she couldn't respond. Told her I was here now and everything would be handled. Left around 9 and drove back to the house. It was dark when I pulled into the driveway. Empty. I turned on the lights and started going through everything, looking for signs of what really happened Sunday night. The stairs looked clean. No scuff marks. No damage to the railing. No sign that someone had taken a bad fall. I went up to Mom's bedroom. Everything looked normal at first. Then I noticed her medication organizer on the nightstand. Sunday's evening doses were still there, untouched. If she fell around 7, she would have taken her meds first. Mom's strict about her medication schedule. I checked her bathroom, found her blood glucose monitor. Last reading was from Sunday morning. Nothing after that. More proof that something interrupted her normal routine before she supposedly fell. Went downstairs to my room and opened my laptop. Started pulling up the accounts I managed for Mom. But Mom had also kept Jared on her savings account from 30 years ago. The one she'd set up when Dad was still alive. Community property rules meant Jared had been a joint holder since she opened it. I never liked that setup, but Mom insisted. Said Jared was her son and deserved access. Said families should trust each other. Logged into the account. Felt my jaw tighten when I saw the balance. Should have been around $68,000. Money Mom had saved over the years from Dad's life insurance and Social Security. Money she'd been careful with. Money she wanted to leave for both of us eventually. Current balance, $12,000. I pulled up the transaction history. Started scrolling. Withdrawals going back 6 months. 5,000 here. 8,000 there. None of them authorized by me. All signed off by Jared. Total missing. $56,000. I sat back in my chair. My brother had been draining Mom's savings for half a year. And judging by the bruises and the suspicious fall story, she'd figured it out. I kept digging. Found more weird stuff. Mom's credit card had charges I didn't recognize. Restaurants, hotels, shopping sprees. All within the past 3 months. First thing I did was lock down every account I could. Changed passwords. Froze the credit cards. Removed Jared's access from everything I had authority over. The joint savings account was trickier since his name was on it, but I documented every withdrawal and flagged the account for suspicious activity. Took about 2 hours. Then I sat back and waited. My phone rang. Unknown number. Woman's voice. Shaky. Is this Arthur Kellerman? Yeah. Who's this? I'm Barbara. I live 2 doors down from your mother. I've been trying to reach you for days. I sat up straighter. What's going on? I saw what happened Sunday night. I've been scared to say anything, but I can't keep quiet anymore. Tell me. Barbara took a breath, then started talking. She'd been coming home from her book club around 6:30 Sunday evening. Saw Jared's car in Mom's driveway. Thought it was nice he was visiting for once. But when she got out of her car, she heard yelling coming from inside the house. Loud enough to hear through closed windows. She recognized Jared's voice. Loud. Aggressive. Saying something about money and respect. Then she heard Mom. Scared. Pleading. Telling him to stop. To calm down. That they could talk about this. Barbara almost went over to check, but she was afraid. Didn't want to get involved in family business. Didn't want to make things worse. Then around 7, she heard sirens. Saw the ambulance pull up. Watched the paramedics bring Mom out on a stretcher, unconscious. Watched Jared and Celeste follow in their car, looking calm. Too calm. Like they'd been expecting this. Like they'd practiced what to do next. Barbara called the hospital the next day to check on Mom. Was told only family could get information. She didn't have my number. Spent the next few days feeling guilty about not doing more. I thanked her. Asked if she'd be willing to give a statement if it came to that. She said yes without hesitating. After I hung up, I sat in the dark processing everything. I called my buddy Miles. Known him since high school. Defense attorney turned plaintiff work. He answered groggy. I'd woken him up. This better be good, Kellerman. I need your help with something. Family situation. Might involve criminal charges. That woke him up. I'm listening. I laid it all out. The suspicious fall. The bruises. The missing money. Barbara's statement. Jared's calm act. Miles listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a few seconds. You think Jared pushed her. I think something happened that wasn't an accident. That's felony theft and assault. But you need proof beyond transaction records and neighbor testimony. What kind of proof? Video, audio, something that shows what he did. I thought about that. I might be able to get it. Be careful. You're not a cop. You can't trap him. Anything you record needs to be legal. Understood. We talked strategy for another 20 minutes. Miles explained what would hold up in court, what wouldn't, how to document everything, how to build a case that prosecutors couldn't ignore. After I hung up, I started making a plan for making sure Jared and Celeste faced real consequences for what they'd done, because I wasn't interested in family reconciliation. I wanted them in handcuffs. The next morning, I went back to the hospital early, found Dr. Rashid making rounds, asked him about Mom's status. He pulled me into a consultation room. Your mother suffered major head trauma, subdural hematoma. We've relieved the pressure, but she's not out of danger. Next 72 hours are make or break. What about the bruises on her wrist? Dr. Rashid pulled up her chart, showed me photos. The wrist bruising suggests restraint. Someone grabbed her with a lot of force shortly before the fall. You think someone pushed her? I'm a doctor, not a detective, but I've seen enough cases to know when injuries don't match the story. I've flagged it in her records. Adult Protective Services was notified. Did they follow up? They called your brother. He explained that your mother has Parkinson's and sometimes gets confused. Said she probably grabbed onto him during the fall and he was trying to help her. They noted it and closed the inquiry. Of course they did. Jared was smooth. Could talk his way out of anything with that earnest look and reasonable tone. I'd watched him do it our whole lives. I thanked Dr. Rashid and headed back to Mom's room. Sat with her for a while, the one without the bruises, told her I was going to fix this. Around 10, my phone rang. Jared. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message saying he wanted to discuss Mom's care plan, wanted to meet up and talk about next steps. I texted back, busy today. I'll handle everything. His response came back fast. We should coordinate. I'm still on her accounts. Need to make sure bills get paid. There it was. He was worried about losing access. Worried I'd figured out what he'd been doing. I replied, already taken care of. I've got it covered. I spent the rest of the morning at the house going through Mom's papers. Found her important documents folder, insurance policies, property deed, will, financial statements. The will was dated 5 years ago. Simple split, everything 50-50 between Jared and me. But tucked behind it, I found something else. A newer document dated 6 months ago. Letter saying she wanted to modify the will, written in Mom's handwriting. I'm changing my will to remove Jared from inheritance. He's been stealing from me. I have proof. I'm scared to confront him. Arthur will get everything. Jared gets nothing. It wasn't notarized, wasn't legally binding, but it was dated right when the withdrawals started getting bigger. I took photos of everything, uploaded them to a secure cloud drive, made copies. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Celeste. We need to talk. Meet me at Starbucks on Scottsdale Road in 30 minutes. Come alone. Interesting. I texted back that I'd be there. Showed up 25 minutes later. Found Celeste sitting at a corner table near the back. Perfect makeup. Hair done. Looking like she was headed to brunch with friends. I sat down across from her without ordering anything. Didn't plan to stay long. She gave me a fake smile. Thanks for meeting me. I know things are tense right now. I wanted to clear the air before this gets messy. I leaned back in my chair. Cut to it, Celeste. What do you want? The smile dropped. Jared's worried you're getting the wrong idea about what happened. He loves your mom. We both do. This whole thing has been really hard on him. What thing? You mean the one where he stole $56,000 from her and she ended up in the ICU? Celeste's face went cold. The mask came off. You can't prove any of that. Jared had access to that account legally. He was helping Grace manage her finances. She's not thinking clearly anymore with the Parkinson's. You know that. She's clear enough to know when someone's stealing from her. Clear enough to write a letter about changing her will. That landed. Celeste's eyes narrowed. What letter? The one where she says Jared's been stealing from her. The one where she cuts him out of her inheritance completely. That letter. Celeste leaned forward, dropped her voice. Listen to me carefully, Arthur. You're going to back off this. You're going to accept that Grace fell down the stairs. You're going to let Jared continue managing her accounts. And you're going to forget about any letters or accusations. Or what? Or we'll have her declared incompetent. Get a court-appointed guardian. Someone who isn't you. Someone who'll see things our way. You'll lose all access to her. All decision-making power. And when she dies, you'll get nothing. I stood up. Looked down at her sitting there with her designer bag and her threats. You're more naive than I thought if you think that's going to work. See you in court, Celeste. I walked out. Drove straight to Miles's office downtown. Told him about the conversation. Every word, every threat. He grinned. She threatened you. Made it obvious they're working together. That's consciousness of guilt. Document everything she said while it's fresh. Every detail. I spent the next hour writing out every detail of the Starbucks meeting. The threats about getting Mom declared incompetent. The plan to cut me out completely. The cold calculation in Celeste's eyes when she laid it all out. Miles reviewed it. This is good, but we need more. We need them to admit what they did in a way that's rock solid. Something that leaves no wiggle room. What do you suggest? He thought about it. Tapped his pen on the desk. Call Jared. Tell him you want to discuss a family settlement. Tell him you're willing to work something out. Sound like you're giving in, tired of fighting. See what he says. Arizona's a one-party consent state. Record the whole thing. If he admits to anything, we've got him. That afternoon I called him. Put my phone on speaker with a recording app running. Jared answered on the second ring. Arthur, good to hear from you. Celeste said you two talked. Yeah, she made some points I've been thinking about. Oh? I don't want this to turn into a legal mess. Mom wouldn't want us fighting, so I'm willing to work something out. Silence on his end, thinking it over. What kind of arrangement? You keep access to the accounts. We split the medical decisions. When she passes, we split everything 50-50 like the will says. No fighting, no lawyers. More silence. Then, what about the money I've been managing for her? Celeste mentioned you had questions about that. I'm willing to overlook it. Call it a misunderstanding, as long as we're on the same page going forward. Jared's voice changed. Got more confident. That's smart, Arthur. Really mature of you. I was worried you'd try to make this difficult. The truth is, Mom's been confused for months. I've been helping her with expenses she couldn't track anymore. The money went to good use. Her care, her bills. You know how it is. Right. So the $56,000, that all went to her care? Well, some of it went to helping me and Celeste through a rough patch. But Mom wanted to help. She said so, before she got too confused to remember. I glanced at Miles sitting across from me. He was smiling, making a keep-going gesture with his hand. And Sunday night, when she fell? Jared's pause was longer this time. That was unfortunate. We'd been talking about her finances. She got upset, started saying things that didn't make sense, accused me of stealing. I tried to calm her down, but she got more worked up. Started walking toward the stairs. I tried to stop her, but she pulled away and lost her balance. So you grabbed her wrist trying to stop her? Exactly. I was trying to help, but she was too worked up, jerked away from me and went down the stairs before I could catch her. Miles was nodding, making notes. We had it. Full confession wrapped in excuses. All right, Jared. Let's plan to meet this week and work out the details. Sounds good. And Arthur? I'm glad we're handling this like adults. Mom would be proud. I hung up. Looked at Miles. That enough? That's a confession to theft and assault causing serious bodily injury. Plus conspiracy if we can tie Celeste's threats to his actions. I'll get this to the DA's office today. How long until they move? Depends on how fast they work. But with an elderly victim in the ICU and a recorded confession, they'll move fast. I went back to the hospital. Sat with Mom. Whispered that justice was coming. And for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. The district attorney's office moved fast, but not TV show fast. Miles called me Friday morning. Said a detective had reviewed everything. The recording. The financial records. Barbara's statement. Dr. Rashid's documentation. They wanted to interview me directly. I met with Detective Anna that afternoon. Went through everything again. She asked detailed questions. Took notes. Recorded my statement. She'd already spoken with Barbara and Dr. Rashid. Already pulled the hospital records. She told me the case would go to the DA's office for review by Monday. Monday afternoon, Miles called. The DA had signed off. They were filing charges. Elder abuse. Felony theft. Assault with serious bodily injury. Conspiracy. Arrest warrants would be executed Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, I was sitting in Mom's room when my phone started blowing up. 5 missed calls from Jared, 3 from Celeste. I ignored all of them. Around 11, Miles texted, "Done. Both in custody. Bond hearing Thursday." Spent the rest of the week at the hospital. Mom's condition stabilized. Sunday evening, Barbara showed up at the hospital. Brought flowers. We talked for a while. She'd given her full statement to police. Said she felt guilty for not acting sooner. I told her she did the right thing by speaking up, that her testimony mattered. Thursday morning, the bond hearing happened. Miles called me after. Jared and Celeste both pleaded not guilty. Judge set bond at $75,000 each. Both posted it by end of day. Miles warned me they'd probably try to contact Mom. I talked to the head nurse, explained the situation, showed her the restraining order Miles had filed. She made notes in the system. The following week, Mom's eyes opened. I was sitting there when I heard her breathing change. Looked up and saw her staring at the ceiling. Confused. Scared. I stood up, took her hand. Mom, it's Arthur. You're in the hospital. You're safe. She turned her head slowly. Arthur, what happened? You were hurt, but you're going to be okay. Jared, he was angry. He grabbed me. I know. You don't have to worry about Jared anymore. Tears formed in her eyes. I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner. Not your fault. She squeezed my hand, then drifted back to sleep. A few days later, Celeste showed up at the hospital. She got past the front desk before security caught her. She saw me. Arthur, tell them I have a right to see Grace. She's my mother-in-law. She's also got a restraining order against you, which you're currently violating. One of the security guards spoke into his radio. We need police response. Trespasser refusing to leave. Celeste's face went red. You can't do this. This is insane. We're family. You stopped being family when you helped your husband steal from an elderly woman and put her in the ICU. That's not what happened. Jared was helping her. She was confused. You're twisting everything because you want the inheritance for yourself. I stepped closer. I recorded Jared confessing to stealing $56,000 and admitting he grabbed Mom right before she fell. That's him explaining exactly what he did. Her mouth opened, closed. The cops showed up 2 minutes later, checked her ID, confirmed the restraining order, told her she was in violation, gave her a choice, leave voluntarily or get arrested for contempt. She left. But the look she gave me on the way out said this wasn't over. I went back to Mom's room, found her awake. She'd heard the commotion. That was Celeste? Yeah, she won't be back. Mom was quiet for a moment. I trusted them. I thought they were good people. I know. I'm glad you're not like your brother. Get some rest, Mom. We'll talk more when you're stronger. She closed her eyes. I sat back down and pulled out my phone. Started documenting the restraining order violation. Everything Celeste had said. Because if they wanted to fight this in court, I'd make sure every mistake they made was documented and ready to present to a jury. Over the next 2 weeks, Mom's recovery moved forward. Physical therapy, speech therapy. The Parkinson's complicated things, but she was motivated. The legal process ground forward. Jared and Celeste hired Walter Brennan, expensive defense attorney out of Phoenix, former prosecutor. Miles said Brennan was already filing motions trying to suppress evidence. The preliminary hearing got scheduled for 6 weeks out. Meanwhile, I'd been going through Mom's finances with a forensic accountant Miles recommended, a woman named Maria Torres. She found another $32,000 in suspicious transactions. Credit cards, online transfers, forged checks, total theft, $88,000. Maria put together a detailed report, timeline of every fraudulent transaction, all of it while Mom was cutting back on her own expenses. Miles filed an amended complaint, added more counts, said if this went to trial, Jared was looking at 8 to 12 years, Celeste at 5 to 8. Mom gave her formal statement to the DA 3 weeks after waking up. I sat with her, watched her recount everything, how she'd discovered the missing money, how she confronted Jared on Sunday, how he'd grabbed her and backed her toward the stairs, how she'd tried to pull away and he'd shoved her. The prosecutor, Angela, recorded every word. After Mom finished, Angela said, "This is one of the strongest cases I've handled. Defense doesn't have much room to work with." She was right. 4 weeks later, Miles called. Brennan reached out. They want to negotiate. What are they offering? Jared pleads to felony theft and assault. Serves 4 years. Celeste pleads to conspiracy and theft. Serves 2 years. Full restitution. That's it? Miles sighed. Angela wants to push for more. 6 years for Jared. 3 for Celeste. And she wants them to allocate. Admit exactly what they did in open court. I talked to Mom about it. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I want them to admit what they did. I want it on record. So that's what we pushed for. Miles and Angela held firm. Brennan stalled for a week. Then he caved. The plea hearing got scheduled for the following month. During that time, I moved Mom into a rehabilitation facility. Nice place. Good staff. The house felt wrong to her now. I kept living at the house. Started going through Jared's old room. Found his laptop in the closet. Battery dead, but it powered on when I plugged it in. No password. Amateur move. His email was still logged in. I found messages to Celeste from 2 years ago. Subject line, the G situation. He'd written out a plan. How much he could take each month without triggering alerts. How to forge Mom's signature on the credit card slips. how her Parkinson's was getting worse, and she probably won't even remember half this stuff anyway. Celeste's response, what if she does remember? What if she tells Arthur? Jared's reply, she won't. And if she does, we'll say she's confused. Who's he going to believe? I took screenshots of everything. Gave it all to Angela. She said it showed clear planning and conspiracy. The day before the plea hearing, Celeste called from a blocked number. Arthur, please, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I'm begging you. Jared made mistakes, but he doesn't deserve prison. Too late. She's going to be fine. Can't you just let this go? No. I have a daughter. She's 6. If I go to prison, I'll lose custody completely. You should have thought about your daughter before you and Jared did this to my mother. Lose my number, Celeste. I hung up. Blocked the number. The next morning, Miles and I met Angela at the courthouse. Mom couldn't attend, but she'd written a victim impact statement that Angela would read into the record after sentencing. Jared and Celeste showed up with Brennan, both looking defeated. Jared wouldn't look me in the eye. The judge called the case. Brennan confirmed the plea agreement, listed out the charges Jared was pleading to. Then Jared stood. The judge looked at him over her reading glasses. Mr. Kellerman, tell me in your own words what you did. I want to hear it from you. Jared's voice was flat. I stole $88,000 from my mother over 18 months. When she confronted me, I became angry. I grabbed her wrist. I shoved her toward the stairs. She fell and sustained critical injuries. Why? I needed the money. I had debts. When she found out, I panicked. The judge sentenced him to 6 years. Celeste got 3. Both were taken into custody immediately. I watched them go. Felt nothing. Angela approached me after. Your mother's statement will be part of the permanent record. The restitution order is in place. They'll pay back every dollar plus interest. And the no-contact order is lifetime. I drove to the rehab facility, told Mom what happened. She cried, out of relief that it was over. Thank you, she said, for believing me, for fighting for me. Always. What happens now? Now we focus on getting you better. The next 6 months were about rebuilding. Mom's physical recovery continued, slow but steady. The Parkinson's made everything harder, but she was stubborn. By month 4, she was walking with just a cane. By month 5, she was talking about moving back home. Said the rehab facility was nice, but it wasn't hers. I'd spent that time making the house safe for her. Installed grab bars in the bathroom. Added a stair lift so she wouldn't have to climb those stairs ever again. Converted the downstairs office into a proper bedroom. Made sure everything was set up for her to live comfortably. The restitution payments started coming in. Jared and Celeste's assets were seized by the court. The boat they'd bought with Mom's money, the designer clothes, their cars. Everything sold at auction to pay back what they'd stolen. It took months of legal work, but eventually Mom got $74,000 back. The rest would come from their prison wages over the years, 25 cents an hour. It would take forever. But it was something. Barbara became a regular visitor. She and Mom formed a real friendship. Weekly coffee dates, book club meetings at the community center. Someone Mom could trust who lived close enough to check in without it feeling like babysitting. I hired a caretaker named Maria, former nurse in her 50s. Warm personality, competent, someone who could help with the day-to-day stuff I couldn't handle while working full-time. Mom liked her immediately. Maria said Grace reminded her of her own mother. Miles helped me establish a trust to protect Mom's remaining assets. Made sure no one else could access her money without multiple approvals from different parties. Set it up so if anything happened to me, a professional trustee would take over. No more family members with joint access to anything. Life slowly returned to something normal. Stable. Predictable in a good way. Jared sent a letter from prison 6 months in. Apologetic. Claiming he'd found religion. Asking for forgiveness. I read it once and threw it away. Mom didn't want to see it. Celeste sent nothing. Just served her time quietly. I started dating someone I met at a work conference. Insurance adjuster from Tucson. Her name was Evelyn. She knew the whole story from the beginning. Didn't run away screaming when I explained my brother was in prison for elder abuse. Actually said it showed I had integrity. We took things slow, but it was nice having someone who understood the weight I'd been carrying. Mom met her 3 months in. Gave her approval. Said Evelyn seemed like good people. Coming from Mom, that was high praise. Around month 8, I got a call from Angela. Jared's appeal had been denied. The sentence was final. He'd serve every day of his 6 years. I thanked her and hung up. Felt something close to closure. That weekend, I took Mom back to the house for the first time since the incident. She'd been nervous about returning, afraid of the memories. But we walked in together. I'd redecorated, new paint, new furniture. Changed enough that it felt different, but kept enough that it was still home. Mom stood in the living room looking around. Then she nodded. This is good. Thank you. We spent the afternoon sorting through old photo albums. Found pictures of Jared and me as kids. Before everything went wrong. Before greed turned him into someone I didn't recognize. Mom stared at one photo for a long time. Both of us at age 10 and 8, smiling, arms around each other. I wonder when it changed, she said. When he stopped being that boy. I don't know, Mom. Maybe he was always that person, and we just didn't see it. She closed the album. I'm proud of you. Your father would be proud too. I just did what needed to be done. I squeezed her hand. I will never let anyone hurt you. Not even my own brother. That night, after Mom went to bed, I sat on the back patio looking at the stars. Thought about everything that had happened. It had been worth it. Every sleepless night. Every difficult conversation. Every moment of doubt. Because Mom was safe now. A year and a half after the plea hearing, I got a call from the prison. Jared had been transferred to a minimum security facility for good behavior. Model prisoner. The kind of thing that happens when criminals are smart enough to play the system right. I didn't care. Let him have his reduced security status and extra privileges. He was still locked up for another 4.5 years. Celeste got out after serving 26 months. Earned early release for good behavior. Moved back to California immediately. I heard through mutual acquaintances she was working at a call center, living with her sister in some apartment in Sacramento, trying to rebuild a relationship with her daughter who barely remembered her. I hoped it worked out for the kid's sake, but Celeste was no longer my problem. Mom had fully moved back home by then. Maria came by 3 days a week. Barbara checked in daily. Evelyn had become a permanent fixture in my life. We'd been dating for over a year. Things were serious. She'd practically moved in. Mom approved. Life had settled into a rhythm. Then one Tuesday, I got a letter from Jared's prison counselor. He wanted to participate in a restorative justice program, victim and offender mediation. The counselor said Jared had requested the session, wanted to apologize to Mom in person. I talked to Mom about it. She was quiet for a long time. I don't know if I want to see him. After everything. Let me think about it. She thought about it for another week. Then one morning over coffee, she said she'd do it. Said she wanted to look Jared in the eye and hear what he had to say. The session got scheduled for 3 weeks out, held at the prison facility. Miles and I would be there as support. The day arrived. We drove to the prison facility outside Florence. Medium security. They led us to a small conference room. Jared was brought in 5 minutes later. He'd lost weight, looked 10 years older. He sat across from Mom and me. Didn't make eye contact at first. Kept his hands folded on the table. Jared started talking. His voice was smaller. Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. What I did was unforgivable. His voice cracked. I'm a monster. I became the kind of person who could watch his own mother fall and think about how it might benefit me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of it. He looked at Mom. You didn't deserve any of this. You were a good mother, and I repaid you by stealing and hurting you. The room was quiet. Mom took a breath. Jared, I appreciate you saying those things. I hope you mean them, but I need you to understand something. What you did didn't just hurt me physically. You broke my trust. You made me question everything I thought I knew about you. That damage doesn't heal with an apology. I know. I don't forgive you. I might never forgive you. But I'm glad you're taking responsibility. I'm glad you're admitting what you did. That's more than you gave me when you were trying to cover it up. Jared nodded, tears on his face now. I understand. I am so sorry. Mom looked at him for a long moment. I hope you use your time here to become someone better. I will. I promise. The facilitator wrapped up the session. Jared was let out. We sat there for a few minutes processing. I asked Mom how she felt. She said she didn't know yet. Said she needed time to think about it. We drove home in silence. Mom never forgave him after that. I don't blame her. And honestly, I will never forgive him either. He made his choices. Life moved on anyways. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. Stories. Thanks. Stories. Thanks. Stories. Thanks. Stories.